Thanks for joining us on the weekend edition of National Focus. I'm Kimani. In the headlines, Dominica's Prime Minister addresses CARICOM US Summit. 20,000 banana plantlets arrive from France, and farmers in the northeast cultivate white potatoes. Details of our headline stories and others in just a moment.
Wash your hands. I am Adora Tuse, health educator from the Ministry of Health. Proper hand washing protects against the spread of many common illnesses and germs. Wash your hands often with soap and water, or you may use a hand sanitizer. Remember, clean hands save lives. Protect yourself.
A message from the Health Promotion of the Ministry of Health.
Thanks for staying with us. Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has called on the United States for support in mobilizing climate adaptation financing for CARICOM member states. The Dominica leader made the call at Thursday's CARICOM US Summit in Jamaica. The Prime Minister was making specific reference to a new climate deal that is expected to be concluded at the December COP21 meeting in Paris. Honorable Skerrit explained that it is relevant to the security, climate resilience, building, and sustainable development of our respective countries and affects the prosperity and stability of the region. The Dominica leader also called on the U.S. to partner with CARICOM governments, especially when negotiating complex renewable energy projects with private sector companies. The Dominica leader is looking forward to the implementation of the declarations of the Caribbean Energy Security Summit to build the necessary capacity within the region and mobilize required financial resources to transform the region's energy sector. We will bring you more from the Dominica leader's presentation in a subsequent newscast. In more news, the government of Dominica continues to demonstrate in a tangible way its commitment to sustain the banana and plantain subsectors. As part of efforts to manage the impact of black sigatoka and to develop a sustainable action plan for these subsectors, the administration is receiving assistance from the European Union. The EU, through its Banana Accompanying Measures program, has provided funding for the purchase and shipment of 60,000 banana plantlets from France. The first shipment of 20,000 banana plantlets arrived in Dominica this week from France. GIS News was on hand to witness the transfer of the plantlets to the agricultural station in Portsmouth on Thursday.
We have approximately 30 individuals from the Plant Protection and Quarantine Unit, Extension, Fair Trade, Windfresh, taking the plants from the plantlet stage in a nutrient agar, putting it into a fungicide application, and then what we are doing, we are transplanting it into seedling trays with ProMixer media so it can grow into a plant.
Ansem told reporters that all actions were taken to ensure that the facility and plantlets are free from contamination during the transfer process.
Yesterday we had a team of 20 young strong men, and what we were doing, we were filling up the trays. The entire greenhouse was sterilized and sanitized to prevent any fungal growth or any bacterial contamination. And this morning what we're doing, we're removing the plantlets from the agar, because from the lab the plants were put in agar, nutrient agar, so they could survive and grow. The process in the lab is that they remove the meristem from a mother plant, and it's basically a cell that you put in nutrient agar for it to grow. So it came from the lab, and we have to remove. We cannot plant the plants with this nutrient agar; it will affect its growth. So what we are doing there, we're using water, and we are removing all the nutrient agar. So we're using 3 sets of water, and then dip it into a fungicide so we will remove any contamination and then plant it.
The plants will remain for 4 to 6 weeks in this smart greenhouse before taken to another facility for hardening. Ansem says this is good news for the island's banana farmers.
The fair trade farmers are not, presently they are not shipping to the UK. They have been suspended. So the program is really to assist the fair trade farmers to get back to the UK market, and of course to work with the DAPEX farmers to sustain our regional market, Antigua, Barbados and Trinidad. So these plants will be going out in the field to farmers.
The banana plants are expected to be ready for distribution to farmers by mid-June. Also this news time, Honorable Minister for Trade, Energy and Employment, Ian Douglas, says the Dominica Labour Party administration understands the importance of local farmers, hucksters and other stakeholders in the expansion of market opportunities in the region. According to the Honorable Minister, it is imperative that government and stakeholders strengthen its alliance. He says more so it is of paramount importance that stakeholders adhere to regulations set by the European Union if Dominica is to realize greater benefits in the trade industry. The Honorable Minister was addressing a national trade seminar in Anzime on Wednesday.
If we do not meet those requirements, then we cannot enter the markets. It's like we can see the promised land, but not being able to enter it because we do not have, or we have not met the requirements in terms of the growth, the growing of the commodity, the packaging of the commodity to be able to enter those requirements. In Guadeloupe and Martinique, like I said, is part of Europe, and they have to adhere to European standards. And we need to understand agreements like the European Partnership Agreement, the EPA, and other agreements that are specific to the European Union and how to meet those various standards so we can take advantage of those markets.
The European Partnership Agreement, signed in October 2008, is the first European agreement of its kind within the African, Caribbean, Pacific grouping, allowing free trade with Europe for goods and services. Dominica became an active member of the CARICOM EC negotiations for an EPA in April 2004, when the negotiations were launched in Jamaica. Honorable Douglas says not only does the DLP administration understand the stakeholder contributions to the industry, but government is making provisions for them to meet EU regulations. Honorable Douglas says the Bureau of Standards Farm Certification Program is an important aspect of ensuring that regional standards are being met. He noted government's partnership with Dexia as another example of this support.
Dexia has a farm support program where Dexia can make available things like fertilizer and inputs to serious farmers. Dexia has some commodities now that they want to get up and running: hot peppers, plantains and dashing that they need in certain quantities to supply the markets that they have now. And that information has to reach the farmer so that the farmers can start producing, so that the hucksters in turn can get the produce to take to the markets to help Dexia to fulfill all those requirements.
The Honorable Trade Minister added that among these initiatives to boost the industry is government's continued investment in pack houses.
Now, I just took a paper to Cabinet yesterday so we can get the money to buy the equipment. Some of the equipment has to do with the hot water treatment for mangoes, so that we can get away from the weevils problem, so that our mangoes can enter those markets in the quality that the market want them. Other equipment like the packing and the sorting, the weighing equipment, so that we can get those pack houses up and running, so that the farmer doesn't have to worry about going to the huckster to sell his produce and having to wait for 2 weeks for them to come back and tell him, okay, the sun was hot, so the yams got burnt, the dashing stayed in the hatch too long, so he couldn't sell it, the plantains turned black, so they couldn't sell it. You can have the confidence that you can concentrate on production, you bring it to the pack houses, and you in turn, the hucksters and the business people, can go to the pack houses and ensure that you get the produce in the quantity and the quality at which you require it to take to the foreign market.
Over $745,000 was approved by the Caribbean Development Bank in 2014 to develop 2 park houses on the island in Roseau and Portsmouth. He says the acquiring of a modern vessel to facilitate Dominica's trade in the region is in progress and under heavy discussion by government.
I can tell you that we are in advanced discussions with suppliers, persons who have made the commitment that they can in fact supply the boats. How do we bring the boat into the mix? Because we have persons already with vessels in Portsmouth, in Longhouse, and in Roseau, plying the trade. Where do we need to go? Does our concentration and our focus need to be on one boat initially? What size of boat we need? What equipment we need on the boat in terms of reefer containers, cold storage, the packaging? What's the destination we need to hit? Whether we need to go south to Barbados and St. Lucia with the ultimate goal of reaching Trinidad, or whether we need to go north to hit markets like Anguilla, Antigua, St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands. All of those issues we want to bring to the fore.
You're watching National Focus. Still to come, the DDA prepares for the 3rd Nature Island Challenge. Stay tuned.
Did you know the Caribbean Court of Justice is 2 courts in one? The CCJ has 2 functions: an original jurisdiction, which deals with your right to move between CARICOM countries freely and your right to move your money and your business. This is the basis of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, and the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, and an appellate jurisdiction to hear appeals from courts of those countries which decide to use it as their final court of appeal and no longer go to the Privy Council. All CARICOM member states who have signed the agreement establishing the CCJ are members of the CCJ.
Welcome back. Farmers in the Northeast are for the first time learning how to grow Irish potatoes. 30 of these farmers graduated from an Irish potato field school conducted by the Division of Agriculture on Friday. Nisha Charles brings this report.
The Irish or white potato was first introduced into Dominica in the 1970s. The crop was expected to serve as an alternative to Dominica's traditional root crops like yams and dashins. The government of the day imported in shipments of potato seeds and allowed farmers to grow the crop and supply their families and the local market. Over the next 25 years, the white potato production was mainly grown in the south of the island, primarily in the cooler regions like Girardel. Now the Roosevelt-Skerrit-led administration, and in particular the Division of Agriculture, are seeing the crop in a different light, a crop that could potentially be used as food security, allowing farmers to be self-sufficient. The crop could also be used to reduce the food import bill in Dominica. For the past 3 months, the Division of Agriculture has been on a drive to train farmers in the Northeast Agricultural Region through the Irish Potato Farmers Field School. The region has never seen the production of Irish potatoes on such a scale. As many as 48 farmers began the program, but only 30 of them made it to the end. On Friday, they all received their certificates of completion of the program and now have the tools to grow their own white potato plots from seed to harvest. Director of Agriculture Ricky Bruman says the division wants to empower farmers to take ownership of Irish potato farming and potentially change the landscape of how Dominicans see food on the island.
What you have become through this process, you have really become pioneers. You are leaders. You are people we are going to look onto to build that level of concentration in the Northeast as well. So just as we move probably traditionally 1,000 bags of potato seeds in the South, what you're doing by your leadership, by you blazing that trail, is that we are going to have to bring into this country not 1 container of potato seeds, but 2 containers of potato seeds. What you're helping us do is when we project annually 300,000 pounds of white potatoes, you are now making us project 600,000 pounds. But what you're also doing is make us in this country substantially decrease on the amount of potatoes we bring from overseas. But not only that, what you're helping us do now is to put on our tables, put in our plates, put in our menus a potato that is of better quality.
The program focused on actual planting of the crop, best practices, management of pests and diseases, among other areas. The main instructor, Colwood Toulon, emphasized that a key element to successfully planting these kinds of potatoes is spraying.
Irish potato is not a crop to really play with like that, in the sense that do not wait to see a disease or to see something going wrong to spray. Just go ahead and have your routine, whether you're using synthetic, whether you're using your natural or your organic, whatever, is up to you. Just go right ahead and spray, because Irish potato, when you get one of those blights, yeah, it's wildfire.
Other varieties of white potatoes are being researched to be better suited for that part of the country.
The variety that you dealt with is Desiree, but we have introduced some other varieties, El Mundo, Camel, and we're doing some work with Propel now. We brought some varieties from Jamaica. But why are we doing that? Once you're doing your farmer field school, we are doing something at the Division of Agriculture. Why are we doing that? It is because, as we know it, these potatoes, it has special condition under which to grow the crop. So when you know about potatoes, you know about the potatoes in the Girondelle, in the Bellevue area. The crop wants a cool temperature, cool nights for bulking. But we believe the potential of Dominica cannot be limited or should not be limited to one variety. And so we are looking at other varieties that will do well in Benz, do well in Calabishi, do well in these areas.
The Honorable Minister for Commerce, Enterprise and Small Business Development, Rosalind Paul, says this is an opportunity for agribusiness in that part of the country.
As Minister of Commerce, Enterprise and Small Business Development, that you can begin to think of potato and onion production as real agri-enterprise, and that you will draw on the support that is available through my ministry. Look at this as agribusiness. Look at this as making money. Look at this as production. And look at this as increasing commerce and trade, and to probably even reach to the export level.
But what about the actual farmers who spent 12 weeks learning about the crop? How does potato farming benefit them? D. Les Warrington gives his experience cultivating the crop.
It was difficult for us to start off. We had to buy those plants and the cost of tip plowing, you know, and it was kind of expensive for us to go into it. So if we have to continue, we made suggestions to Mr. Sedros that certain things that we will need, because it's a good crop. And I out of my 4 bags, I got 1,600 pounds. I never expected that, you know, but for the first time I just followed the rules and I got that. So it's good. I got sent for about 13 bags so far.
Warrington harvested 8 pounds of potatoes for every 1 pound he planted. That's higher than the national average of 1 to 6. And this is all in keeping with the government's mandate to continue to diversify agricultural production for local and overseas markets. For GIS News, I'm Nisha Charles reporting.
Thank you, Nisha, for that report. The Discover Dominica Authority is set to stage the Nature Island Challenge 3.0. The endurance competition, which is in its 3rd year, is a unique 4-day racing experience combining trail, race, adventure, and cultural challenges. Chief Executive Officer of the Discover Dominica Authority, Colin Piper, says the event will be captured on television and social media outlets.
Racers will experience not only a once-in-a-lifetime trail race through the coast, farms, and rainforests of Dominica, but also be immersed in the island culture throughout the race week. The challenge is designed to capture the essence of nature, culture, and adventure, and has covered from inception the following areas: dive, hike, wellness, culinary, music, art and craft, indigenous traditions, sports, natural living, and adventure activities.
6 teams will participate in the race and perform 32 challenges. 2 teams stem from Germany, 2 from the USA, 1 from Barbados, and the defending champions from Trinidad. Project manager for the Nature Island Challenge, Lolita Raful, says the challenge is a creative marketing tool that has worked for the benefit of the tourism industry.
It's a very effective tool that we use to be able to get persons to know Dominica, but not just to focus purely in the hike segment. It's to be able to get persons who might be interested in just getting a little bit of hiking, or if they're not interested in hiking at all. Several of the challenges include different things related to wellness, these various traditions that we have, aspects of culinary, many of the mini and major challenges, and even some of the photo challenges relate to all the different tourism sector areas that we focus on. So when you see that out on television and as well also online, it affords visitors the opportunity and make them interested in coming to the destination, not just for hiking, but to experience diving, to experience interesting herbal remedies, and to learn a lot more about our culture.
The challenge runs from April 13th to 17th, 2015. Anyone wishing to follow the challenge can log on to www.natureislandchallenge.com. Over 60 dashing farmers registered with Dexter's Production Support Program received technical training in general production, pest management, and post-harvest of dashing on Wednesday. The workshop was held at the La Plaine Agricultural Center with support from the European Development Fund and Agriculture Policy Program, Caribbean Action. The Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, teamed up with major stakeholders including the Ministry of Agriculture, Dominica Export-Import Agency, and Inter-American Institute for Cooperation and Agriculture to host a one-day training. Dorian Etienne is CARDI's local representative.
We intend to ensure that the farmers are knowledgeable on what they should do to produce the quality and the quantities of dashing that Dexter would require for the pack houses. There have been many concerns as to the low productivity and production, and so the need to build capacity of the producers is critical. And so this training is geared to build the capacity to be more productive producers of dashing.
CARDI's root crop program leader, Dr. Gregory Robin, was the main facilitator of Wednesday's workshop.
This time I'm here to present on dashing more from the point of view of how the agroecological zones, climate, soil types, rainfall, the varieties, the time of planting affects productivity. It's more a quasi-scientific presentation to allow the farmers to realize that the practices they do, how it affects the productivity of the corn. So if you don't weed, what are the implications for not weeding, and why it happens, why you fertilize at certain times, and why it should be timely. So it's more of a, as I said, a quasi-scientific session to allow them to realize that the practices they do may not necessarily be the right practices and how it affects the productivity of the corn.
And that's news. Jarna Hector comes next with this week's edition of Flashback.
Welcome to this week's edition of Flashback. In the headlines this week, the Environmental Health Department is focusing on consuming healthy fish for this entire year, beginning on April 7th, World Health Day. This year's theme is food safety. In countries around the world, food safety forms part of public health action to protect consumers from the risks of food poisoning and foodborne diseases. World Health Day has been observed every year since 1950. The nation's leader, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, has described as timely the CARICOM U.S. summit which took place in Jamaica this week. The Honorable Prime Minister and other CARICOM heads of government met with President of the United States, Barack Obama. Honorable Skerrit says it is opportune that heads of CARICOM and the United States could meet to discuss matters of mutual interest. The Honorable Minister for Education, Peter Sejar, this week emphasized government's commitments to molding productive citizens through the education system. He was speaking at the 18th Annual General Meeting of the Dominica Association of Teachers this week. Also this week, Baroness Patricia Scotland is Dominica's nominee for Commonwealth Secretary General. The nation's leader is confident that her qualifications will serve the Commonwealth well in regional and international affairs. CARICOM is putting forward 3 candidates for the post of Commonwealth Secretary General. And the 5th edition of Jazz and Creole was launched this week. The Discover Dominica Authority says since the event's inception, the number of visitors has increased by 100%. This year, the event will bring pianist Ronald Toole and singer Ralph Tamar, both out of Martinique, as well as saxophonist Arturo Tapin of Barbados and Dominica's Michael Henderson Del Sol. And those were the headline stories which made the news this week. For details of each of these stories and others, visit our website or Facebook page. Now let's get back to Kimani.
Thank you, Jarna. Coming up next, changing your mindset, one step to financial freedom.
Wash your hands. I am Adora Tuse, health educator from the Ministry of Health. Proper hand washing protects against the spread of many common illnesses and germs. Wash your hands often with soap and water, or you may use a hand sanitizer. Remember, clean hands save lives. Protect yourself.
A message from the Health Promotion of the Ministry of Health.
One way to be financially free in 2015 is to not act as a victim of the economy, but a participant in it. Shift your mindset and decide to put your talents to work, your intelligence, your strengths, so that you can take control of your life and your financial future. If you can't find a job, challenge yourself to create one for yourself. We are responsible for our own financial futures. Refuse to fall victim of life's hurdles and make a move to do what it takes to succeed financially. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website news.gov.dm. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/GIS News Dominica, and follow us on Twitter at GIS Dominica. You can also catch up on past National Focus newscasts on our GIS Dominica YouTube channel. From all of us here on the GIS News production team, I'm Kimani Seja. Thank you for watching and have a great weekend.